Welcome to the Her Story Circle podcast, the podcast that brings you the extraordinary tales of everyday women who are changing the world. I'm your host, Gertrude Mache, and I'd like to acknowledge traditional custodians of the land on which we meet today. I also like to pay my respects to elders, past, present, and emerging. Every week, we dive into the lives, challenges, and triumphs of women from all four corners of the globe. We're here to inspire, enlighten, and connect, sharing stories that uplift and empower. So grab a cup of coffee, settle in, and join us as we explore the incredible journeys of women shaping our future. This is Her Story, where every woman's voice matters. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Her Story Circle. This is Gertrude Mache here in beautiful Melbourne, Australia. And again, I am graced with the presence of yet another intriguing young woman. Welcome, welcome, welcome to our tribe. Please tell everybody your full name, where you're based, and share your story with us today.
Well, absolutely. Thank you so much for having me today, Gertrude. It's really nice to have this space to really share, my story, and hopefully inspire more women out there that want to start their own business or just really want to go ahead and they have bigger dreams they want to achieve. So again, Romina, I am 26 years old. I am based in the Bay Area in California, and I was born in Cancun in Mexico. So from a very young age, I grew up just very, very close to sustainability and really having this passion for what can I do to help the environment. Cancun is a very much a touristic place, but you also get to see not only the beauty of it, but also how much it changes over the years, as more tourism comes in. And that's something that really stuck to me from a very young age. Fast forward a few years, I also knew I wanted to do more. So I wanted to go to the US and really had very big dreams of making a difference on a bigger scale. So I went to the US. I did my studies at UC Berkeley, where I first really tapped into how can I actually make a difference. So I went to study chemical engineering, and I was very lucky to also find a very big community of entrepreneurship and of change and innovation and people that really were inspired to make a change. During my studies as a chemical engineer, I also did explore what can I do in this field. Right, I was someone that was always very passionate about building, creating, wanted to do how can I innovate, what can I do to make a difference, but also really understand what's actually currently in the market out there, what are the solutions out there. I think when you think about sustainability, it actually becomes much more complex than it seems like. Something as very simple as plastic, and there's a very conception of plastic is a very big problem, which it definitely is. But I think you want to start going into the roots of it and really analyzing, is it overconsumption? Is it just the overproduction of it? So it becomes very complex. So going back to it, I was very interested in tapping into the space and really understanding waste, recycling, even coming solutions like biodegradable materials and so on. So I ended up doing quite a lot of research in this space. I actually did some research in the carbon capture space. I really wanted to understand, okay, what can we do with these large solutions? And I really realized that I wanted to make a difference now instead of, a few years much later. Our research is taking us, and I wanted to do something that was impactful now. And along the years, I also worked as a restaurant manager, so in food service. And this really gave me that firsthand experience of how much waste we are producing when it comes to the food service space. So, you go and order takeout, you order, just want to grab a bite. And in a scale of one person that goes to grab takeout, it really doesn't make a difference. But then you look at everyone else that is going to restaurants and grabbing food. And it's really not the consumer's fault. We really need to build more infrastructure, more solutions that really benefit both the consumers and also these businesses that are small, they're struggling. And I started connecting with more and more businesses, wanted to figure out, okay, are they also feeling they want to make a difference? They want to provide something that's more sustainable, but also more financially beneficial for them. And that was actually the case. So a lot of the businesses were saying, hey, we're struggling to keep up with the rising prices of single-use packaging. It's leaky, it's low quality, doesn't provide the experience that we want to provide for our consumers. We want a different material, a different solution for this. And everything kept bringing me back to when I was very young, growing up in Mexico. We reuse as much as we can. Like at home, you'll find used yogurt containers that we're storing rice in, like very, very much circular economy, just to save as much money as we can. It's part of our culture. And I figured, why not implement this solution in food service? Like, how can we reuse packaging? And that's where my co-founder came in, and we decided, let's build a solution that brings in technology so we can actually understand and build a solution that where things are coming back. We're not just providing a durable material, but it's actually coming back and it's being in circulation. It's helping the business. It's a good experience for the consumer. And that's pretty much how FoodWare was born in 2021. We started working with restaurants that were very excited to implement a solution that really grew. And then we realized, hey, how can we make a bigger impact now beyond restaurants? How can we go to the larger corporates or universities that are producing thousands of single-use packaging every single day? Think about universities that are really shaping the future leaders, and how do we tell them from a very young age, hey, this is how you can make a difference just by simply grabbing food, right? Something that is more sustainable. And that's pretty much how our journey has been. So we're now been working with Fortune 100 companies, really helping their large cafeterias and employees have a better experience, and also an experience that provides them with data that they can actually use and then tell their stakeholders, hey, this is how we're making a difference. And it's not only by how many single-use containers we save, but how many employees are we making happy now by embedding that culture of sustainability. And that applies to both, corporates and also universities that are now, like, the students come up to us and they tell us, hey, thank you so much for building this. Like, I really hate to see how much waste we're producing, and I'm happy that you're providing this for us now. So that has been a very exciting journey. We've even seen a lot of restaurants. One of our restaurants in the Bay Area won a national award for being a leader in sustainability, and she was recognized just for really making a difference. Those are some of the things that really help us stay motivated and help us keep pushing this forward and keep growing, and for us to explore, okay, food service, it's really a big space, but single-use packaging is everywhere, right? Like, there are so many industries that we really want to make a difference in, and we want to make them more circular. We want to really help them also create the messaging for their stakeholders. Say, you're making a difference. This is how, something that we do from early on is not only tell like how many single-use containers you have saved, but translate all of that into things that are more tangible for people. How many trees you have saved, or how many phones you would have charged, how many hours of TV you would have watched, things that they can really understand and relate to, which I think has been very powerful for us. And I think what's important is, like, as a Latina, really bringing in that perspective in an industry that really lacks more disruption, more innovation, more technology, more sustainability. So from last year, we embedded ourselves in a lot of these very large industry associations that have, decision key makers and CEOs and people that can really make a difference, and whether they want to implement solutions like this or not. So we started embedding ourselves there. I was actually invited to be part of their industry advisory membership, and that was a very big step, I think, for the association, because they don't really bring in like younger people. I'm 26 years old. They don't really bring in younger people, and I'm also the first Latina to be there. So that was really exciting to get those news, and it's been a great space to really be able to share those ideas. Because when you think about like these associations, they are all CEOs, and I think it is important to recognize that most of the people that we will actually be interacting with, that I really get to talk to on a daily basis when it comes to the work that we're doing, are people that, they're not actually born in the US, or like they have language barriers. I end up finding myself speaking a lot of Spanish with the people that we're working with, just because I want to make sure, like, hey, we're working together, and I want to bring in people from all parts of the spaces. So that's something that has been very powerful, I think, for us. And also making sure that we have a team that is mostly women-led team, bringing in their perspective, bringing in innovation, bringing in ideas, and also people that are from all kinds of ages. So that's a bit about FoodWare and about myself. Let's see, I have an older brother. He's in... Sorry, I'll go ahead and let you go.
No, keep going.
I was just going to share a little bit more. I guess I have an older brother, and my mom, she's in Hawaii, and they're both always very inspired to see where we're going and what we're doing, and very supportive. And I've been very lucky to have them as a family to be pushing me all the time to be doing more. So
That's absolutely fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing your story. It's fascinating how your origins, where you're from, has led you to your vocation. Now, growing up in Cancun and witnessing climate change firsthand, how did that shape your mission today?
that's actually what made me start the company. So it's a part of the reason why I wanted to like make a difference in the environment. And I think it's a very different experience to go and visit Cancun and to actually grow up
Yeah.
there. So I grew up really swimming with the reefs that were very colorful, full of life. And now if you go back there, a lot of them have this concept called bleach, like they don't have a lot of color. And all of that is due to climate change. So just actually seeing those effects so closely is what keeps bringing me back and keeps me inspired to really make a difference. But we're also like walking on the beach that is considered beautiful and world class, and then you see a lot of this pollution that ends up there and single use packaging. And I get myself involved in as many groups as I can around doing beach cleanups and just trying to do like some education advocacy, you know, especially bringing in like the younger generations. But it's also, how do we actually stop that from even happening? How do we get to the root of it? How do we enable more circularity? And that's the reason why I keep working on FoodWare. Like, we want to really tackle it from the very beginning before it ends up being a problem and it ends up being a beach.
So can you go into detail and explain how FoodWare works and what makes it different from traditional recycling or waste systems?
Yes, those are great questions. So the way FoodWare works, we provide reusable materials. So that can be like a stainless steel container, stainless steel cup. What we really come into place is providing the technology so we can actually track them at all times. What I mean by that is, let's say like a smart label, like a QR code sticker that you put on them. And we basically track their life, like their cycle. Once a customer grabs it, so they can put their food in there. And then we know like this person collected it. And then that way we know when it was returned as well. So we collect, like we scan at different points. And that allows us to know, okay, it has been returned. And also making sure we have, incentivizing reward system. We have accountability systems, making sure that people are actually bringing it back within a certain period of time. And so on, because that's really the goal of it, for it to come back. And then we basically gather all of this data so we can actually tell that story of, this is how many people are participating, this is how many single-use containers you have saved, CO2 emissions that you have avoided, and so on. So really just capturing all of that data and just enabling that circularity system in place for those corporates. And as for how different it is, so I think I like to break it down into different things. Like, there is recycling right now, composting, and then regular waste. And then all of that, I like to split it from circular economy. So recycling, for instance, right now is actually very much behind outdated technology. So what I mean by that is, we have so many different materials and different packaging, and all of that is so confusing for consumers. And where do I put this and that? Like, so many different numbers, right? And I think where we can recycle what really varies from city to like countries. It just doesn't really work right now. I think only 9% of all plastic that has ever been created has actually been recycled. So it's a system that
9%.
only 9% of it since it was created. Yes. So it's really not a solution that works, especially for the long run. So and the other solutions that have come up, as I was mentioning, there's composting, there's biodegradable. Unfortunately, once you start really diving into the small details of it, you find out like it actually creates some more harm than good. Depending where you live as well, if there are composting facilities. But again, it gets just very complicated. Like, can I actually compost this? How? There are so many different composting materials of packaging. So we kind of want to make all of that go away just as easy as possible, and then just make it easier from, instead of having to decide, like, is this something that I can recycle? Can I compost? Just, hey, I just grabbed this and I just have to bring it back to the same place that I go to every day. So just making it convenient, kind of removing that burden of what do I do with this, and knowing that, like, not knowing if it's going to be recycled or composting or thrown away, just knowing that it's actually going to be sanitized and it's going to be used again and it has a longer life cycle. So
I like that. Now, what are some of the biggest challenges that you faced launching a tech startup as a young Latina founder?
Those are great questions. I think I will start with, Funding is the biggest one as a technology startup, right? So first we have to overcome the barrier of we're a sustainability company, and it actually has more impact and it has a very big scale compared to other spaces. Like we can actually really penetrate like every corporate out there, and it can be a $1 million startup. So first overcoming those barriers, then is of course education as well, really helping people see there's a bigger benefit. There's sustainability benefits, but there's a bigger benefit for them financially, for the corporates that implement this, for the businesses. There's experience, there's financial savings, but really just having to overcome that barrier that they think that it's a premium. And actually, as a Latina, like that's always something that's very important for me. It's actually making it accessible for everyone, because I grew up in lower income family. I do not want to put like a system out there that is actually more expensive or like a premium. That's often the idea of sustainability for most people. So we really wanted to make this accessible, make this a way that would work for businesses to really implement, and that it would also be accessible for everyone else. So that has been our second biggest barrier. But as a Latina and first time founder, I think has just been, is she actually capable enough? Is she like too young to build a startup, and kind of overcoming some of those first steps? If you look at the funding for women, I believe it's like 1% of all funding out there. It's incredibly low, and it's how do we get past that? How do we demonstrate that actually women and Latinas have, very big impact in this space? So overcoming that, and luckily we've pretty much bootstrapped till now, till revenue. That has really allowed us to, demonstrate like
it's viable.
Yes, definitely, that we can penetrate, even being part of this new industry association and being nominated as a board member from like a very quick span of like a very short span of time. So that's really allowed us to really demonstrate that as well. And we were lucky enough to be able to work with companies like Pepsi. We were part of their accelerator, so really being able to collaborate with some of the biggest producers of single-use packaging and seeing how we can actually help them make their solutions more circular. So having sort of like building out that resume, right, of like, hey, this is how much we have scaled so far, and this is how much we want to scale. So
I love it. Now, how do you stay resilient while breaking into industries that are traditionally dominated by larger and less diverse companies?
I actually use that as a leverage, like being someone diverse and someone Latina. I think they really like that space, and I actually leverage and say, hey, this is a perspective that you haven't seen before. And I've been lucky enough to find a lot of champions that really want to empower me as well, and like bring me to spaces to really bring in that new perspective. So I've just been very lucky to really find those people from a very young time, and also just having a community of very supportive advisors and also other women founders. There aren't as many women founders, unfortunately. So the ones that are out there, especially in the Bay Area, we're all very close together and very we stay very strong together, essentially. So it's just having that community of, hey, this went wrong, what do you think, or how have you done this in the past, and sort of like just being there for each other. Having that community has been life-changing for us.
That's just awesome. Absolutely awesome. Now, what advice would you give to other women of color aspiring to lead innovation in sustainability and tech?
I love to empower every single woman that I see out there that says, hey, I want to start a business, or I want to like maybe grow in my career. And I would say just go for it. Don't let your mindset get to you. Like, you are so much more capable of everything that you think you can do. And just find those champions that are there, that believe in you, and really just go out there and ask for what you want to get. Something that I had to learn from early on is if you don't ask, you don't get. So I started reaching out to, those investors, reaching out to all of those corporates that, maybe at some point I was worried, like, is it going to be a good match or not? So I just went for it as much as I could, and I was lucky enough to. Most of them really will respond to you. So I guess it's just working on your mindset, building that community, and network as much as you can. Networking is very, very powerful in these days, and you want to just stay in touch with all of those people that have supported you, and that you think you can also support in some way. So.
Now, you emphasize that business can be both profitable and purpose-driven. How do you balance these goals for FoodWare?
We make sure that they come hand in hand. I think if you don't have that impact, well, at least personally, if I didn't have that impact or that purpose, I think I would really struggle, maybe like continuing building a company. Like I really want to make sure that I'm building and every day that I'm working towards something that I'm very passionate about. But also in a longer run, I think like the biggest companies really do have that that scale of reaching that $1 million price like star. So I think they both
Yes.
have to come hand in hand, especially right now with a lot more regulations coming up. Of course, the landscape is changing very much recently, but in the past, like more, like for instance, investment companies, they're being pushed to having more purpose-driven companies in their portfolio, so having more diversity, and they really want to make sure that they're staying on track with all other investment companies and so on. So it's really like they have to make sure that they're catching up. And for us, that's important to have both the scale and have purposes. It's just a part of our DNA, you could say.
Yes. Yeah. That's beautiful. Now, what role do you think universities or corporations should play in the movement towards zero waste?
That's a good question. I think they have the biggest influence out there and also the biggest impact. You know, if you think about universities, like I was saying earlier, like they really are shaping the future leaders. And it's up to them to really show them how they're like universities like, you know, UCLA, UC Berkeley, like these really world-class universities, like how are they actually teaching their students about how to preserve the environment, even when they go and grab food, when they go to their class, like how are they really teaching that? So it's something that is very important for a lot of these universities to implement more policies, to create the solutions, also to empower their students to show, for instance, UC Berkeley, I'm an alumni there,
Wow.
and you know they're implementing this system, so it's exciting for a lot of the students to say, hey, an alumni is actually here and is implementing this, so this can be me in the future as well. So I think they have a very big role to play in this space, and also just to empower other universities to also implement the system. And the same thing applies to corporates. You know, a lot of we work with some of the largest Fortune 100 companies, and I think what they do outside of the corporate space and inside of the corporate space, they go hand in hand. Like it's really about the culture they're building inside, but also what they're doing outside. And it is important for a lot of them to also demonstrate that they're internally making sure that they are staying on track with their sustainability goals and really, you know, demonstrating that.
Yeah, that's so true. Very, very true. Now, who have been some of your biggest influencers or mentors on your entrepreneurial journey?
Yes. Luckily, quite a few people. So, for instance, co-founder of Lime, the electric scooters, he's very passionate about
Oh,
sustainability, about the circular economy. He's been
okay.
extremely supportive about this space. He also has a lot of experience, you know, and just really cares about bringing more circularity in other spaces. So,
Yes.
luckily, yes, co-founder, his name is Andrew Savage, and also a lot of influential leaders at Stanford. Some really power women have been very supportive, and also very well known in this space. They're always out there pushing me and just being like a mentor for me and making sure that I am also challenging myself in this role as a co-founder and CEO, but also on a personal level and seeing, really helping me bring in more perspective and just expand like our visions of what else we can do and just being there for us like at every step of the way. So yeah, those are some really big goals.
That's really nice. It's so good to have that kind of support. Now, the other thing you're passionate about is environmental justice.
Yes.
How does diversity and inclusion tie into sustainability efforts?
That's that's actually the core of another reason why I wanted to start FoodWare, because I noticed from an early on age, you know, when we create a lot of waste, it actually ends up affecting most of the lower income communities. So they're the most
Yes.
like affected by this. And yet when we're looking at sustainability, it's always like a premium. It's always usually like benefiting other communities. So I wanted to make sure we're building something that is helping them. Um, and just to give you an example, like when you look at these like incinerators and recycling companies that are, once they go through the process of processing the materials that are single use, it ends up creating very much toxic fumes that harm these communities. And unfortunately, like no one's really looking into like how do we help these communities improve their health, improve making sure that they're staying safe and away from all of these fumes and from all of these hazards. So it is a very important thing to make sure that we're bringing in their perspectives into it, that we're collaborating
Yeah.
with them. So in our work, we have worked very closely with cities, with counties, with nonprofits, making sure that we are also tackling it from the root, and also making sure that we are supporting them. So we'll work with them to support those communities and bring in more restaurants in those spaces, or making sure that we can hear their voices, or just doing education and just hearing their voice, just getting engaged with them in some way. But I think it's important to bring everyone in the space.
Okay. Yeah, that's good. Now, looking ahead, what's your big dream for FoodWare and its impact on the world?
Well, we want to expand beyond food service. We really want to explore where else we can make a big difference beyond food service, because food service, like I mentioned, it's very much a passionate space for a lot of people. You connect with food a lot, but we really see like there is just single-use packaging everywhere, and it's how do we enable that circularity in other spaces? You think about logistics, shipping containers, things like that. There's just single use in so many spaces. So we're exploring right now different industries and seeing where else we can make a bigger difference.
Okay.
But we also want to expand, globally. Right now we are across the US. So we are right now in the East Coast, West Coast, Hawaii. So sort of in different parts of the US, but really want to expand our reach there, and also just make sure that we're expanding globally in the future. So that's really the bigger dream is I think that the bigger vision would be just no more single use. Even though it has its cases, like completely understand there are some places where it just makes sense, but that's really the dream of mine, is just seeing more circularity in the space.
I love it. Now, I'm going to have a little time thought experiment with you
Okay.
and teleport you back into the past. And we're going to go and meet the younger you, this young girl who had a vision, a dream to change the world in her small way, and it's turned into something really fantastic. If we could go back and you could give her 3 nuggets of wisdom based on what life has taught you up until this point, what
Mm-hmm.
would those 3 nuggets of wisdom be?
It's a really interesting question. Thought experiment. I think back then I never envisioned how far we would get. And also just meeting all the people that have really supported us along the way, and seeing their vision of us, right, and like where we're gonna go. So I think first I would say, like, don't be scared. Don't be scared. Just go for your dream, and just you're gonna fail a lot of times. You're gonna make so many mistakes. I remember doing a lot of pitches where I completely would blank out at so many points, and then nobody really remembered. They just remembered like about the company, about us, and it all turned out great. Or so many moments where like things didn't really go the way that we wanted them to, and we just had to like really scramble at the last minute, and everything went okay. But I think the biggest thing is just like, don't be afraid to fail, because you will fail, and it's okay. You're gonna, continue and get back up. Also, reach out to people and make sure that you stay in touch with people. Throughout the journey, you really get so focused on building the company, and you sort of forget about yourself and your personal life and your friends and your family. And it's very easy to get burned out if that's the case. So just make sure that you find that balance for you from a very young age. Like, it's great to be ambitious and to have a big vision, but it's also important that you as a founder, like, you're also staying connected with yourself. Otherwise, like, the company goes where you go, right? So I think those are the biggest takeaways.
I love it. Well, thank you so much for coming online and sharing your story with us today. It's absolutely fascinating to meet a young woman who has a vision, a mission, and a dream, and you're really making things happen. Absolutely inspirational. Thank you.
So thank you so much, Gertrude. So nice to be here.
And thank you to everybody who tuned in today. The Her Story Circle is not just a podcast. We are a social impact movement that brings you the stories and voices of women from all over the world. We share our stories to uplift you, to inspire you, to energize you, but most importantly, to take you from where you are now to where you're trying to go. So if you are a woman who has a vision and a passion to create your own tech startup, just do it. Take the first step towards your dream. You will look back 3, 4, 5 years from now, and we've had a good example of how that can be done this morning. So I'll be back again tomorrow, everybody, with yet another amazing guest. In the meantime, have a fantastic day, morning, or evening, wherever you are in the world, and bye for now. Thanks again for the interview.
All right, thank you.
Thank you for tuning into the Her Story Circle podcast. I hope today's story has inspired you to believe in the power of our stories and the difference you can make in the world when you use your voice. I'm Gertrude Mache, and it's been an honor to share this space with you, where voices from all walks of life come together to weave a rich tapestry of diverse perspectives. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review our podcast to help us share these stories with more listeners. Follow us on social media by looking for the Her Story Circle podcast for more updates. And join us tomorrow for another episode filled with courage, resilience, and empowerment. Remember, your story matters, and together we're building a stronger, more inclusive world. Until next time, keep making her story. Thank you.